goody bark. No, say now, where do I start? I said love comes naturally. Yeah, comes naturally.
So happy Sunday, everybody. Happy Father's Day. Today is Father's Day. And before I get into the main body of my talk today, my sermon, I want to acknowledge my own father, Anthony Sr. Great man. He was a farmer. I worked with him on the farm. He was also a carpenter. He built the home that we lived in from, I think, when I was about 5 years old on. Beautiful home. My sister Sarah and I still own this home and rent it out. We are making money on the home my father built, and we're happy to have his beautiful home. And he was an auto mechanic, and my father taught me many things, and one thing my father taught me was that you should always carry a pocket knife. And I have my whole life carried a pocket knife. I usually don't carry it in my pocket. I usually carry it in my shoulder bag. And my father was definitely right. I can't tell you the number of times it comes in handy when you need to cut something to have a knife. And this particular pocket knife is a Barlow, and it was my father's favorite brand. And I didn't have a Barlow pocket knife until a couple of years ago. And my sister Sarah, who is here today, found a Barlow knife online and bought one and had it mailed to me. So now I have a Barlow knife, just like my father always really liked. So thank you, Dad, for that little bit of wisdom. Okay. When I think about fathers and Father's Day, I think about the prayer that I was taught when I was a young Catholic boy. Us Catholics call this prayer the Our Father because that's how it starts. But many Christian people call it the Lord's Prayer. It's basically the same prayer. So I thought I'd read it because it's Father's Day. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Now, if you're a Catholic, that's where the prayer stops. But many Christians have an extra little line, and so I will read the extra line because we are so ecumenical. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. So, actually, it's a beautiful prayer. And the story in the Bible is Jesus is being asked by people how should they pray, and he gives them this prayer. So this is, at least according to the story, the prayer that Jesus gave to people to say. And there are a lot of wonderful thoughts in this prayer, and there's a lot of connection between the teaching of A Course in Miracles and traditional Christianity. And so I think it's really good to know this prayer. It's a really good bridge for A Course in Miracles students to our more traditional Christian friends. For one, it says, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. So we know how important forgiveness is in A Course in Miracles. And so right here in the prayer that Jesus was telling everybody was so important and the way to pray is a very profound teaching about forgiveness. That we are asking for forgiveness. We are, desiring to be forgiven for our own transgressions. And we know that the way that this will happen is when we forgive others for the transgressions that they have appeared to put onto us. And so this idea that it all is the same, that our forgiveness of others is their forgiveness of ourselves, or the divine forgiveness of ourselves. This is a very consistent teaching in A Course in Miracles, and obviously it's a very foundational teaching in the whole Christian faith. There's another really interesting line here, which I will use as a segue into what I want to talk about today. And it says, and thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So God's will is going to be done on earth, in manifestation, in form, the same as it is going to be done in heaven. And this is something that I think sometimes A Course in Miracles students have a little trouble with. Course in Miracles students frequently think that this earthly plane we're supposed to just sort of ignore and not expect to see God here or feel the divine here. And we're just supposed to focus in on a more ethereal, mental, internal experience and kind of wait until we're in heaven to really know God. So this idea has been around Course in Miracles circles for as long as I have been around A Course in Miracles, which is a long time. And I don't actually think it is consistent with A Course in Miracles. I don't really find anywhere in A Course in Miracles where that is really the teaching. I actually find that the Course in Miracles teaching is much more in line with the Lord's Prayer, which is we can expect to see God's will done right here in this world, in form, the same way that we're going to expect to see God's will in reality, in heaven. In fact, that's what I believe A Course in Miracles is all about. Now, sometimes people say, if you focus in on any bodily thing or form thing, they say, you're just too focused on form. To which I say, no, I'm not. I'm just practicing the Course. And this is the teaching that I get from A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles says, and when they, meaning us, holy children of God, find their own reality is even here, then they step back and let it lead the way. So we are supposed to see the divine here in this realm. And when we start doing that, when we see that this realm is also reflecting the divine, that allows us to really step back and allow more of the divine energy to flow through and lead the way. So I am not of the ilk that says that mentioning anything worldly is a deviation from A Course in Miracles. I don't get that from A Course in Miracles. In the reading that Reverend Steve read, I think it says it very clearly. It says the happy dream about him, he's talking about our brothers and sisters, the happy dream about him takes the form of the appearance of his perfect health, his perfect freedom from all forms of lack and safety from and safety from disaster of all kinds. So when we say we're here to achieve the happy dream, A Course in Miracles is telling us that's about form. That's about form and appearance. The happy dream about us and about our brothers and sisters is the form of the appearance of perfect health and perfect freedom from all forms of lack and safety from disasters of all kinds. So, yes, I certainly believe that we are to bring the divine will into manifestation here in this world of form, and that we actually should be striding this world of form with the grace that comes from who we are, with the grace of knowing that we are this higher order of being. And that's what it means, I believe, when the Lord's Prayer says, on earth as it is in heaven. A Course in Miracles tells us the miracle is proof he is not bound by suffering and loss in any form, because it can so easily be changed. So the miracle shows us that form can change. How can that teaching be so clearly stated and so many people want to deny that that's what the Course is about? Let me read it again. The miracle is proof he is not bound by loss or suffering in any form, because it, the form, can so easily be changed. So, like it or not, Course in Miracles is about changing form. The body is a form. If it's ill, we change that form and make it a better reflection of health. Course is full of all kinds of statements that talk about the body being healed. I'm going to read a few that just are very clear. Thus is the body healed by miracles, because they show the mind made sickness and employed the body to be victim or effect of what it made. So The body's healed by miracles. Now, people want to say that, well, that's what the words say, but the meaning is actually more abstract than that. And I really don't see any reason why Jesus would be talking to us in code. Jesus is talking to us directly. He uses pretty clear words. They're English. There's no reason to think that the message is coded into the words. If it says, thus is the body healed by miracles, I believe what that means is the body's healed by miracles. In another place it says, with this as purpose is the body healed. Now that purpose is to be of use for us to remember who we truly are. So with this as purpose is the body healed. It is not used to witness to the dream of separation and disease. We align our purpose with the divine purpose, as it is on earth, as it is in heaven, then the body will be healed. In another place it says, now is the body healed, because the source of sickness has been opened to relief. Another very clear statement. I got one more. His dreams are happy and his rest secure, his safety certain, and his body healed, because he sleeps and wakens with the truth before him always. So there are literally hundreds of passages in A Course in Miracles that talk really directly and really specifically about healing, and it means the form is going to reflect that healing. Yes, the healing is of mind, because it's the mind that is manifesting the form. But when the mind is healed, we can expect that the mirror reflection of the mind is going to manifest and reflect that healing. So, I've had, I think, major healing in my own life. In my body and in my mind and in the manifestation of my life. And, we just did this virtual conference a few weeks ago, and the model that we were using for the virtual conference, at least one of the proponents of the model said that the people leading the conference, like myself and my partner, that we should tell our personal stories so that people have a greater identity with us and an affinity to us. And I was certainly prepared to do that, but my partner did not want me to do that. Because for some reason, as I thought about it later, for some reason my story of healing was not appropriate. That was too risky for me to tell my story of healing. And considering what happened afterwards, I should have really realized there was a big problem. That was a big problem if my healing story wasn't an appropriate healing story to tell. Now, I've told this healing story. I tell it regularly because I just think, it's my story, and it should be an example. But I especially want to tell it today, being Father's Day. Because my father was a great person, but my father also had a lot of mental health challenges in his life. And, a lot of people don't really understand mental health and mental illness problems, but a lot of people do, because a lot of people have those challenges themselves. So my partner didn't want me to talk about my mental health challenges because, of the stigma of mental illness, and they were afraid that it would turn more people off than it would make people have a connection with me. And, that was that opinion, but I am not of that ilk. I think we all have stories to tell, and the people who connect to the story, and they want to hear that story. So, I'm a person who, on the world of form, I inherited a lot of the mental health challenges that my father had. He was diagnosed as depression and bipolar disorder, and that is supposed to be hereditary in the world of form. And, at my time in life, when I was just about my father's age, when he manifested them, I manifested them. And they're really hard to go through those things. And if you've not had mental health challenges, it's, they vary, of course, tremendously, depending on the person. But, mine was extreme anxiety, and then an inability to think clearly, and an inability to cognate. And, which is, you just really understand that your thinking is greatly impaired. And the only thing I can really say to, get people to think about what it is, I mean, we've all had the experience. You walk into a room and you can't remember why you walked in there. So, my mental health challenge is like just that ramped up. Like, it's like looking at a book and not remembering why I'm looking at this book. And, it's just, so this sort of this intense mental dysfunction, mental impairment. And so, it's very, very scary. I mean, we all live in a world that requires, quite a bit of mental acuity. And when you really know that your mental capacity is really reduced, then you just start thinking about how can I can't function. I can't function in the world. So it is very, very fearful. The way that the medical establishment deals with this mostly is to give you medications that are supposed to help. So maybe the medications do help a little with certain cases or at a certain time in the case, but the medications all have, for me anyway, they had severe side effects. There was weight gain. I remember I was on one medication that I have never been that hungry that consistently. I had to tell the guy, you cannot keep me on this medication. I'm going to weigh 300 pounds in a year. It's just like, I just cannot eat enough to ever satisfy. I mean, it did something to the pathways and I just had to eat. I was ravenously hungry all the time. There were, of course, sexual side effects. A lot of these medications have sexual side effects. And of course, you're never supposed to talk about that. But for a man, these were disturbing to not be able to function sexually. It wasn't a pleasant thing. One of the more devastating side effects was tremor. That I couldn't hold my hand steady. Shaking. I remember once trying to eat a burrito, and my hand was shaking. Even two hand shakes, that did everything to spill. I couldn't really eat the burrito. So I mean, things like this. It's very, very difficult. And when I talked to my psychiatrist about it, their solution was, well, let me prescribe more medications that will deal with the side effects. And so, pretty soon I'm taking 3 medications, 4 medications, and then I was concerned about that. And I remember my doctor saying, well, some people take 5, 6, 7 medications to deal with their mental problems. And that was the moment when she said that I thought of a line from A Course in Miracles, which is, there's got to be a better way. there's got to, this, I'm not accepting this. And so, that, began an odyssey and a journey. And, I was already an A Course in Miracles student, but, and I've talked about, I don't have to, I got into orthomolecular therapies, which are supplements and amino acids and minerals that you take. And I went that pathway and did a lot of work and investigation about that, and those proved to really be helpful. And I can get into that with individuals on a more detailed manner, but suffice it to say that I take no medications for any mental issue, and I still do take some supplements, and I feel pretty healed from all my mental health. I still have issues of anxiety that come up from time to time, but I turn them over to the Holy Spirit and I walk through them. Now, I am aware that, some people think there's this stigma about mental health issues, but I'm also aware that I've gotten the guidance to have my life be a demonstration that you don't have to buy into the stigma. That, I know some people think it's that they would feel more comfortable saying they had terminal cancer than them to say that they had a mental health issue. But we all have our issues, and mine was a mental health issue, and my father's was a mental health issue. And my father was not able to really master his mental health issue. And, and he lived the last 4 years of his life in a nursing home because of extreme kidney failure, because of all the medications he had been on for so many years, ruined his kidneys, and he was on dialysis. And so while my father wasn't able to really heal his mental health challenges to any really successful extent for a prolonged period of time, I feel that I have carried forward my father's challenge and I have healed them. And so I always offer my healing in the name of my father. And we have the same name. We were both born Anthony. And I remember a line from A Course in Miracles. Of course, this is early on in the Course. It says, I will visit the sins. Jesus is explaining biblical sentences. It says, I will visit the sins of the fathers unto the third and fourth generation, as interpreted by the ego as particularly vicious. Actually, all the quotation means is that the Holy Spirit in later generations retains the power to interpret correctly what former generations have thought, and thus release their thoughts from the ability to produce fear anywhere in the sonship. So I really believe that this quote is very personally significant to me, and significant to me on Father's Day, because I'm that later generation that was able, because of better resources, maybe because of the good life my father was able to provide for me, and I had different resources, and I was able to complete the healing that in form my father wasn't able to complete during his biological life. So I really connect with this reinterpretation of the Bible passage, and I love how Course in Miracles reinterprets it. And I think we are all doing that. We are all functioning in healing things that maybe previous generations weren't able to heal. Now, I want to say that, none of that was easy. None of my healing and any of the things I did were easy. It all took time. It all took a lot of practice. It took trial and error. And it took a lot of asking for guidance. And it also took a lot of help from my friends, as the Beatles song says. And it took a lot of help from my sisters and brothers, and actually a lot of help from my biological sister Sarah, who is right here in this meeting with us, because I would frequently call her when I was really in need and in terror. And she was so healing and so wonderful and so supportive to continue to talk to me all the time. And whenever you're going through any challenge, you got to be willing to ask for help. People want the promise of A Course in Miracles without actually doing A Course in Miracles. If you want the promise of healing, you've actually got to do the work. So with this idea of, does A Course in Miracles heal our lives in form? Does it heal our bodies? Yeah, it does, but you got to do it. It doesn't do it because you have the book and it's sitting in a bookshelf, and it probably doesn't even do it if you have the book and open it up occasionally. It probably takes a whole lot more dedication than that. As I say every week, Community Miracle Center has 7 free, open to the public groups every single week. Go to them. Go to 4 and 5 of them. Get yourself really indoctrinated with this discipline. It takes practice. Healing does work. It's not a metaphor. I do not believe it is a metaphor. But for me, it took practice. It isn't just owning the book. And it probably isn't just coming to a Sunday gathering every once in a while either. There's an old joke, actually, about a boy with a broken arm. So there's this teenage boy, he's got a broken arm, and he's talking to his doctor. And he says, "Doctor," he goes, will I be able to play the violin after my broken arm is healed? And the doctor says, "Oh, of course, son, you'll be able to play the violin when your broken arm is healed. It'll be just like new." And the boy says, "Oh, that's terrific, because I never could play it before." So, there's more involved with having healing than, just having the book. And there's more involved with having healing than maybe just coming to the Sunday gathering. There's another joke that I like to tell. and maybe you've heard me say it before, so there's Carnegie Hall is this very, very famous musical hall in New York City. And this person is, going to a concert there, and he's a little lost, and he's walking around, and so he can't find it. And so he asks a New Yorker, you know how us New Yorkers are, he asks the New Yorker, he goes, how do I get to Carnegie Hall? And the New Yorker turns to him and says, practice, 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 practice. So how do I really get to manifest healing? Practice, 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 practice. You got to practice it. It can build, and and the practice and confidence of others can help you, but I don't really know any shortcuts. Some people seem to have a little more ability right on the surface, but mostly, everybody that I've ever experienced that seemed to have healing abilities practiced it. And they kept it foremost in their mind all the time. I mean, you can practice healing every day by joining the CMC healing team. I mean, that's the whole purpose of the healing team, to give people a very simple, A Course in Miracles based healing practice so that you can practice, practice, practice every single day, so that you can heal the forms like A Course in Miracles says we're supposed to. Most people don't practice enough, and then they're not able to heal the form, and then their solution is, well, then that's not what A Course in Miracles really means. So don't change A Course in Miracles to fit whatever your current manifestation is. Change your manifestation to fit what A Course in Miracles is saying. Join the healing team. Yes, I know it's $1 a day, and some people say, I can't afford that. And maybe some people actually can't afford that, and that's a different issue. But I actually think a lot of people can afford it. Your question really shouldn't be, can I afford to be on the CMC healing team? The question really is, can I afford not to be on the CMC healing team? I mean, can you afford not to do it? Because, is sickness worth it? Sickness isn't worth it. Being able to be a healer, both in your life and in the life of somebody else, that's a huge value. And $1 a day to support the CMC and to get those emails, really think about it. I once heard that everyone will pay a certain amount of money in their lifetime to stay in very well-appointed rooms away from their home. And you can choose to do that in a hotel, in a wonderful resort area or tourist area, or you can choose to do that in a hospital. So, the choice is yours. Where do you want to spend your money? Do you want to think you can't afford to stay in a nice room sometimes? You're going to end up probably staying in one in a hospital when you don't have a choice. So I say, choose the nice hotel rooms from time to time. They're so much more fun than the hospital. So I don't think I am personally too focused on form. I believe A Course in Miracles is teaching us how to change the form. I read many, many quotes, and there I could speak for days on all the quotes in A Course in Miracles that talk about us changing the form. And then, of course, we have the story of Jesus. I mean, it was his big claim to fame, after all. And the Course comes to us from Jesus, so don't you think that's what it would be about? The idea that somehow it's all written in code, that it's all a metaphor, is just absurd to me. It's just absurd. That's us wanting to change the Course to justify our unwillingness to practice, practice, practice. Are you too focused on form? Or are you just not willing to do the practice, 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 practice? So I'm willing to do the practice. I have been through things that were just too awful for me not to do it. I was motivated. Healing myself from my issues was a huge motivation. And I'm so grateful to the Course. And I'm so grateful that I was able to change and heal my life. And I'm so grateful that other people are able to change and heal their life through the practice of A Course in Miracles. And it does take practice. So join us. Come to our drop-in groups. Join the healing team. Do the practice. Make it to the Carnegie Hall of Healing. Okay, that's my talk for today. Thank you very much.
God told Noah, build me an ark, build it out of hickory bark. Noah said, now, where do I start? I said, love comes naturally.